saw Hoffman in a British farce. When Nichols saw Hoffman, he knew he had found the right actor for the title role in The Graduate.
Someone told me that I was like the last one to be screen tested. I was doing an off-Broadway play in New York, actually an English play called A by Henry Livings, and I'd gotten good reviews, so that I came to the attention of the director. It was also Catherine Ross's first screen test.
The first time I met him was in Mike Nichols' office, and we read together. It was kind of like the day before the test.
It went very badly, and I forgot my lines.
He looked like he'd crawled out from under a rock. He was very pale. He was wearing all black. He lived in New York. He had no interest in doing movies. He could hardly wait to get back home, even though he's from here. He'd been playing a lot of character parts, so it was sort of strange for him to be playing someone his own age.
I was called 3 days later and said that they decided to give it to us.
Dustin strikes me as someone who is a perfectionist. He doesn't hesitate to say what he thinks about how things are going, or to express his ideas, to fight for making things as good as they can possibly be. And he was like that even then.
Of all the films I've done, it's probably the best films, just in terms of the cinematography and the writing and the editing, and I think it's a very well-made film. And they had previewed it with a regular audience before it opened, and that was the first time I'd ever seen myself on screen, and the audience really went with it. There's laughs and cheers at the end when, you know, the character I'm playing is running to the church and all that, and gets her before she gets married. And then we had opening night, and everyone got in. I was in my first tuxedo and was rented. Women are in their formals, and they all sit down, and there's not a laugh in the entire show. And all the opening nights since then have been the same. Movies aren't made for tuxedos.
The performance won Hoffman his first Academy Award nomination. In his next film, Midnight Cowboy, Hoffman made a startling transition from a clean-cut college boy to a deteriorating, world-weary street person.
Terrific shirt.
Are you speaking to me?
Well, I was just admiring that colossal shirt. I mean, that is one hell of a shirt. I bet you paid a pretty price for it, am I right?
Oh, I ain't cheap.
Yeah, birds.
I say it's all right shirt.
I like birds.
I don't like to have a lot of, you know, cheap stuff on my back.
Sure.
Hi, cowboy. Got a cigarette?
Hey, sweetheart.
More goddamn faggots in this town.
Oh, kiss it, Ratso.
Up yours. You gotta watch out for that.
Hey, you really know the ropes. Oh, damn, I wish I bumped into you before.
Huh.
I'm Joe Buck from Texas.
Enrico Rizzo from the Bronx.
Hoffman worked for months on Rizzo's mannerisms and speech patterns, creating one of the screen's most darkly memorable characters. Hoffman's portrayal of Ratso Rizzo earned him his second Oscar nomination. Hollywood Reporter columnist Robert Osborne.
I think Dustin Hoffman certainly is one of our great stars. He's wonderful playing kind of the oddball guy, like he was in The Graduate, and he can be versatile as he was in Midnight Cowboy.
Dustin Hoffman was fast acquiring a reputation as an actor with a broad dramatic range. In 1970, Hoffman teamed with director Arthur Penn for the film Little Big Man. In this epic fable of the Old West, Hoffman plays Jack Crabb, a man who has witnessed 121 years of American history. In Little Big Man, Hoffman realistically ages over a century from naive adolescent to toughened old man. In 1971, Hoffman starred in the dramatic comedy Who is Harry Kellerman and Why is he saying those terrible things about me? Action legend Sam Peckinpah directed Hoffman in the shocking and savage Straw Dogs. Hoffman plays a meek mathematician whose pacifist code is tested when thugs terrorize his wife. Critics and audiences were once again startled by Hoffman's ability to create original and multifaceted characters.
I do think every role is different, and I think the first thing that you do when you're going to play a part is you say, what gets me the most about this character? And if you don't have one thing about it, just like meeting someone at a party, if you're not attracted, then you're in big trouble. But if there's something, you don't even have to define it, but if you know that there's some energy that's going on between you and this character that's written on the page, then you know that you're already working. Never think less of a character than you do of yourself. Never think negatively about a character you're playing. I've never met anyone who doesn't think they're smart. Everyone has a dignity, and I've never met someone who thinks they're a villain. I never met someone who thinks they're a bastard, you know, a bad person. And, you know, we would think otherwise. But the person themselves always has a rationalization. Plead their case and let the audience decide what they feel about you. Don't you make that decision.
In Papillon, Hoffman co-starred with Steve McQueen in the classic tale of prison life on infamous Devil's Island.
You keep me alive until we land in Guyana, and I'll underwrite any escape you care to arrange. Done.
Hoffman completely altered his physical appearance to play a mousy Frenchman who conspires with McQueen to flee the notorious prison. In Bob Fosse's 1974 film biography, Lenny, Hoffman stars as the controversial comic Lenny Bruce. Hoffman's riveting and tragic performance earned him his 3rd Academy Award nomination.
It's not that I like to be stretched, I just like to do what interests me. It's like meeting a girl at a party. You just get attracted. You simply get attracted, and your friend will come up to you and say, you're not going to get anywhere with her. That's some challenge you picked out for yourself, but you don't think of it that way. You're just attracted to her, and I just get attracted.
Hoffman and Robert Redford made headlines in the controversial 1976 film All the President's Men. Hoffman and Redford played Washington Post reporters Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, the investigative journalists who broke the Watergate scandal. William Goldman won an Academy Award for his screen adaptation of Woodward and Bernstein's best-selling book.
Hoffman, because of his nature, was a wonderful actor. Hoffman has to play flawed people. You don't believe Hoffman is Clark Gable.
Dustin Hoffman was the antithesis of the typical Hollywood star. He was short, he lacked matinee idol looks, and he was hardly a part of the Hollywood scene. But Hoffman's unique characters attracted fans by the millions. Dustin Hoffman was one of Hollywood's busiest and most popular stars, recognized as a consummate actor, willing to take on the most challenging roles. In 1976, Hoffman teamed again with screenwriter William Goldman on the suspense thriller Marathon Man.
Is it safe?
Tell me what the it refers to.
Is it safe?
Yes, it's safe. It's very safe. It's so safe you wouldn't believe it.
Is it safe?
No, it's not safe. It's very dangerous. Be careful.
Hoffman plays a graduate student who winds up caught in an espionage plot orchestrated by a band of extremists led by Laurence Olivier. Marathon Man screenwriter William Goldman.
Marathon Man was a thriller, and we lucked into a phenomenal cast. I mean, you don't get people like that for a genre picture usually, but we had John Schlesinger, who was, I think, it's not the kind of picture that John took in those days, and he took it, and I think basically one of the reasons we got, I mean, we had Scheider after Jaws, we had Olivier, we had Bill Devane, we had Hoffman. It was a wonderful cast. The big scene in the picture in many ways is the torture scene with Hoffman.
That hurt? No, I just think it would. Should take better care of your teeth. You have quite a cavity here. Is it safe?
Look, I tell you, I can't do it.
I worked with Olivier on Marathon Man, and he was the first one that said, why aren't you doing Shakespeare? You should do Hamlet. And I started memorizing Hamlet, and I woke up 10 years later and realized I was too old to play Hamlet.
By 1979, Dustin Hoffman had received 3 Academy Award nominations, but had never won Hollywood's most coveted honor. All that changed with Hoffman's compelling performance as a divorced father fighting for custody of his young son in Kramer versus Kramer.
I think Oscars are interesting because you can't really give an award for the best. I mean, you can do that in competitive sports. I mean, Carl Lewis beats out the second guy and the third guy and the fourth guy by 1/100th of a hundredth of a hundredth of a hundredth of a hundredth of a second. You can't quite judge acting that way.
By the 1980s, it seemed Dustin Hoffman had played every sort of man imaginable. So in order to satisfy his quest for new challenges, Hoffman played a man who was also a woman in Tootsie, one of the smartest, funniest comedies ever made.
Dustin Hoffman is absolutely wonderful in Tootsie, and that again was a wise choice, and he worked with a wonderful director, Sidney Pollack, in it. And it was the right movie for the right time, and he was hysterically funny in it.
I wanted to convince people that I could pass as a woman, because I had seen films where men impersonate women, and it was always, as an audience, you had to suspend your belief. And I suddenly got this wacky idea, which was, what if the audience does not have to suspend their belief? Now, the only way to tell is to get the makeup right. We spent months doing that. And to find a way to dress myself and to find a voice so that I could pass.
Hoffman's wildly comic cross-dressing performance in Tootsie earned him his 5th Academy Award nomination. In 1988, Hoffman teamed with young superstar Tom Cruise in a film about the relationship between brothers. Rain Man turned out to be the biggest commercial hit of Hoffman's career. In Rain Man, Hoffman plays an autistic savant who forms an unlikely relationship with his brother, a scheming con artist played by Tom Cruise.
I was doing a play on Broadway, and Tom Cruise came backstage. I didn't know him, and he introduced himself to me, told me my work, and we wound up sitting in the dressing room for about 3 hours. And I went home to my wife, and I said, I just met this guy, Tom Cruise, and there's something weird. I said, it's like we had some kind of connection. It was a very funny feeling. It was like something very emotional between us, like we were brothers. And this was before I ever read the script.
As the former chairman and studio chief of MGM, Lee Rich was crucial in getting Rain Man produced.
The role played by Dustin Hoffman was that he was much younger, and the role played by Tom Cruise was a man in his 40s who had struck out at everything he had ever done, and this was his last chance to get a hold on money. Well, Dustin saw the roles, and he wanted to play that one, the one that he played, so we reversed the entire thing. We made him younger, made the other guy younger, got Dustin older, and just did it that way. But that was brilliant casting.
The funny thing was that when Cruise and I began to work, because here we're having to play brothers, you know, over a period of a year of working on the material because we couldn't get it off the ground, and then the 4 months of doing it, we started to share personal things between each, you know, as you do. And he started telling me about his background and his family life, and I'd tell him about mine. And we had almost parallel lives growing up as children, because neither of us had a nice childhood. And it was like we had come out of the same house.
Coffee?
Yes, that'd be good. Sally Dibbs, Sally. 461-0192.
How did you know my phone number?
How'd you know that? She said read the telephone book last night. Dibbs, Sally. 461-0192.
He remembers things, little things sometimes.
Very clever, boys. I'll be right back.
How'd you do that? How'd you do that?
I don't know.
You memorize the whole book?
No.
You start from the beginning?
Yeah.
How far'd you get?
G.
G?
G, God's sake. William Marshall, God's sake.
You memorized to G?
Yeah, G.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
G, half a G.
We didn't think we'd even get the film made, and then when we finally did get it made, as we were looking at the rushes, at the end, I think Barry even said, after looking at a cut of it, he said, I don't think it's going to be commercial because it doesn't have a happy ending. It has no jeopardy in it. There's no big crashes. There's no bad guys coming after us. And he said maybe some of the critics will like the film, but he did not see it as a... We were expecting a very small audience for it.
Screenwriter Ron Bass also won an Oscar for Rain Man.
He wanted the guy to be autistic and not retarded. He wanted the guy not to be immediately the most lovable person on earth, because then he felt that the love story was a given, and we had sort of sold the farm in the first act. You would see that this guy was a teddy bear. Of course you would love him. And of course, eventually, Tom Cruise would love him. Anybody would. He wanted the guy to be the most difficult, impossible, hard-to-love guy there could possibly be. A guy you couldn't stand being around for 5 seconds, who made your skin crawl. And he had already done a lot of research on this. And he already knew that the artistic personality, or a certain kind of the artistic personality, was what he wanted.
I'm going to be without my maple syrup and my toothpicks.
You don't see any pancakes, do you, Ray?
Of course, Thomas maple syrup is not here.
Ray, when we order the pancakes, they're going to bring the maple syrup.
Maple syrup is supposed to be on the table before the pancakes.
We haven't ordered yet, Ray.
Of course, when they bring the maple syrup after the pancakes, it'll definitely be too late.
Dustin's performance was so seamless and so lovable. He achieved this impossible thing, which I'm sure there are other actors that could have done it too, but no one could have done it as well as he did. He took a guy who was completely unlovable and difficult in all of his mannerisms, was honest and true to that, never copped out and was cuddly, but you still loved the guy from the first moment. It was so honest, so real, so human that I adored the guy every step of the way, even though the guy was a complete pain in the butt.
See Hook. Hoffman plays Peter Pan's immortal nemesis, Captain Hook. Hoffman's performance as the swaggering, swashbuckling pirate widened his popularity to include a new generation of young moviegoers.
It was the first time I ever made a film where I was thinking of my kids as the audience. So when I was doing the character, I was thinking, will my kids find this part funny? Will they be moved by this part? Is this part too frightening for them? Because I think the idea is to have a certain tension, but not to make the kids say, I don't want to look at that.
Dustin Hoffman reinvents himself with every new character he portrays. His unique and unforgettable performances are a testament to his unlimited range and passion for the actor's craft.
Ralph Richardson, one of my favorite actors who died a few years ago, said on the occasion of his 80th birthday, in an interview I read in the New York Times, they said to him, what would you like to do now you've done everything? And I can't do better than his answer. He said, I'd like to learn a little bit more about acting before it's too late. The parts that I'm closest to, interestingly enough to me, are the parts which, in a sense, I was in on the creation of them. You either have that commercial thing about you or you don't. It's not something that you learn. And I know that what makes me laugh will make other people laugh. I know that what makes me cry will make other people cry.
Dustin Hoffman's characters have left an indelible impression on generations of moviegoers. His body of work includes many of the greatest film performances in Hollywood history. Movie fans all over the world eagerly await the latest addition to Hoffman's unique and legendary gallery of characters. Until next time, see you at the movies.